everyone. This is the California Vegetation Treatment Program public scoping meeting. We are.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. We're here today to provide some information on the proposed California Vegetation Treatment Program, or the CalVTP, information on the environmental review process for the CalVTP, and to accept oral and written comments from agencies and interested parties on the scope and content of the new program environmental impact report being prepared by the State Board of Forestry and Fire Protection. So the board has decided to prepare a new program environmental impact report, or a PEIR, for the proposed expanded California Vegetation Treatment Program, or the CalVTP. CAL FIRE will implement the CalVTP to reduce wildfire risks and avoid or diminish the harmful effects of wildfire on the people, property, and natural resources in California. So to counteract decades of fire suppression, vegetation treatment activities will be designed to reduce fire fuels, improve protection from wildfire through strategically located fuel breaks, and mimic a natural fire regime using prescribed burning. Ecosystem restoration activities would be designed to approximate natural habitat conditions, processes, and values to those occurring prior to this period of fire suppression. And this PEIR will analyze the potential environmental effects of that proposed program.
I guess I can find a seat. I asked my other supervisor.
The CalVTP is one tool intended to help implement Governor Brown's Executive Order B-5218, mandating an increase in the pace and scale of fire fuel treatment programs to reduce wildfire risk. The CalVTP PEIR will supersede and replace the previous draft PEIR associated with the 2017 VTP. So the CalVTP is the proposed program to treat approximately 250,000 acres annually of non-federal land to reduce wildfire risk or establish a more natural fire regime. The CalVTP PEIR is the analysis of the physical and environmental impacts of implementing the vegetation treatments proposed in the CalVTP. Defensible space, building codes, land use decisions, and other fire prevention programs work together with the CalVTP to create a more fire-safe California, but they are not programs that are addressed in this PEIR. The board and CAL FIRE recognize the importance of these different programs and have specific programs to address those areas. But the CalVTP and its PEIR are an inappropriate place to analyze these. Many of these programs I manage or play a role in implementing, and I'd be happy to talk with anybody about how all of these programs fit together with the CalVTP to improve fire safety in California.
Yes. Thanks, Dee. This is Heather Blair. I'm with Ascent Environmental, and Ascent Environmental is under contract to the Board of Forestry to prepare the program environmental impact report in coordination with CAL FIRE and the board, and I'm the project manager of that effort. So the California VTP would be implemented within the treatable landscape, which encompasses the vegetation or habitat types within the state responsibility area that are suitable for treatment. So it excludes, for example, agricultural areas and aquatic habitats. The treatable landscape encompasses about 20 million acres of the 31 million acre SRA. So after the suitable vegetation types were narrowed to those that are suitable for treatment, under the CalVTP, CAL FIRE's Fire and Resource Assessment Program modeled the areas where each of 3 treatment types would be appropriate for implementation. So the treatment types that would be implemented within the treatable landscape vary depending on a variety of factors, including local assets at risk, ecological conditions, and other priorities. The CalVTP includes 3 proposed treatment types. The first is the wildland urban interface, or WUI fuel reduction treatment type, which is focused in WUI designated areas and generally consists of treatments to reduce fuel loads and slow or prevent the spread of fire between wildlands and structures and vice versa. The second treatment type are fuel breaks, which are strategically placed vegetation treatment areas that actively support fire control activities. There can be shaded fuel breaks or non-shaded fuel breaks. And the third type of proposed treatment are ecological restoration projects, which generally occur outside the WUI in areas that have departed from the natural fire regime as a result of fire exclusion and would focus on restoring ecosystem processes, conditions, and resiliency to fire. So an example might be eradication of invasive species. And the intent of these is really to return fire to the landscape in fire-adapted plant communities, again, to promote fire resiliency. So 5 proposed treatment activities would be used in various combinations to implement the 3 treatment types. These 5 proposed treatment activities are listed here, and they are prescribed burning, manual vegetation treatment, which is the use of non-motorized hand tools or hand-operated power tools, mechanical vegetation treatment, which is the use of motorized equipment to remove or trim vegetation. Equipment used under this treatment activity would include masticators and chippers. The 4th proposed treatment activity is prescribed herbivory, also called beneficial grazing or browsing, and the targeted ground application of herbicides. And the proposed treatment activities would be selected depending on, again, a variety of factors, including the objectives of the treatment type and target vegetation. So to analyze the environmental effects of the CalVTP, the board is preparing a program EIR, as Edie mentioned. This is allowable under California Environmental Quality Act for a series of actions that are related by statute and generally have similar environmental effects or are related to a continuing program. So the program EIR will provide streamlined CEQA review of site-specific later vegetation treatment projects that are consistent with the environmental analysis and the environmental protection measures in the program EIR. The streamlined CEQA review approach is intended to document whether and how a project's environmental effects are covered in the PEIR. We use the term within the scope of the PEIR for this. And it also documents which measures from the mitigation measures or environmental protection measures from the PEIR are incorporated into implementation of that later treatment. It is this within the scope finding for later activities that would help to increase the pace and scale of project approvals. And where later vegetation treatment activities do not qualify for this within the scope finding, then site-specific CEQA documentation would be required, typically in the form of a mitigated negative declaration or potentially an environmental impact report. The program EIR will address several topics pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act. We are calling this a full scope EIR because it addresses all of the topics that are identified in Appendix G of the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. They're listed here. They include aesthetics, biological resources, greenhouse gas emissions, water quality, public services, and cumulative effects, among others. The schedule for the program EIR is listed here. The NOP was released at the end of January, and we've been conducting scoping meetings to solicit feedback on the intended scope and content of the program EIR within the month of February and now extending here to March. The formal comment period for the notice of preparation ended March 1st, but here we are on March 18th, and we are continuing to collect comments if anyone has any at this meeting or soon after. The draft EIR is expected to be released in June of 2019, and there will be a 45-day public review period. During that public review period, we will again hold a series of public meetings to explain the findings of the draft EIR and to solicit public feedback on the analysis. The final EIR is expected to be released in November that will include responses to any comments that were received on the draft. And we are aiming for certification of the EIR by the end of 2019.
So we're accepting oral comments during the public comment session of this scoping meeting. We have speaker cards in the back of the room that for you to complete. We are also accepting written comments at today's scoping meeting or by mail or email at the addresses above. We know that the comment period closes on March 1st, but of course, since we had to reschedule this scoping meeting, we're happy to take comments here and in the short couple of week or two following today's scoping meeting. So seeing that we have no potential speakers in person in Reading with us today, we are going to mute the webinar until such time that anybody arrives that wants to give oral comments or written comments at today's meeting. Thank you all for participating and joining us via the webinar. And we hope you got helpful information about this project today.